Good morning. Welcome to the Meltdown. I hope you're having a great day. Here in the Houston-Humble area, if you're a duck, you're really enjoying it. It's cooler, it's raining, and it's going to be that way for the next day or two. Personally, I'm excited about tomorrow. It's the first time I have gotten a chance to see Jason in almost 3 months, and so God is good, and I hope you'll enjoy the show today. Please grab a pen and a piece of paper. Take some notes. This is the one you want to hear, and this is the one you want to be able to relate to for a very long time. Now, overnight, being able to speak with Michael about his show yesterday afternoon, I want to address the trillions of dollars that are necessary by 2020. That's to maintain and update, not upgrade, just to update infrastructure in the United States. $4 trillion by 2020. Keep in mind that the government has been reporting the $17 trillion deficit that we keep operating at a deficit in. That means we're adding to our problems. The economic policies of the United States add another trillion. Quantitative easing adds another trillion. Another $4 trillion to help maintain the system. And so what I really want to bring to a major realization is that when I look at gold or any precious metal, any tangible asset, the story that I've been trying to maintain for the last couple of weeks is how important, how crucial it is to make sure that you've got coins and precious metals as part of a healthy diversification inside of your portfolio. I'm not telling you don't liquidate everything and get out of the stock market or any other market for that matter. What I'm telling you is that so many financial advisors, so many money managers don't know how to get their hands around making money in my market. They don't have the time to do the due diligence and prepare. So few guys have, quote, 30 years of experience in this market. And so if you do, odds are you're only a pseudo coin dealer, economist, versus somebody who's got the experience of having been in multiple markets and tried to bring a message in multiple formats. Now, I don't want to get so animated that you miss the message. And ultimately, the message today is very clear. We are at a huge debt and deficit, and it continues to compound itself. And whether or not you're looking at a certain stock or not, whether you listen to the mainstream media or not, that's not what it's all about. What it's all about is that stocks are near their all-time high. Interest rates are at nearly their all-time low. Now, this morning, I had the opportunity to listen in to President Lockhart of the Atlanta Federal Reserve. A day or so ago, James Bullard, who is the president of the St. Louis Federal Reserve. These presidents spoke. I want to say there's a dozen of them. And part of the conversation also dealt with Janet Yellen, who has cleared the Senate to be our next Federal Reserve chairman. She also served as a Federal Reserve president in San Francisco, and so she understands the banking system, what it takes to follow the system, what rules are in place. She is, as far as Lockhart and Bullard are concerned, she's a suitable replacement for Ben Bernanke. Now, Mr. Bernanke and Tim Geithner helped create, and of course Tim Geithner, before becoming the Treasury Secretary, was the president of the New York Fed. Of the 12 or so seats of the Federal Reserve, there are large banks that have silent seats. They're the ones that get to sit in, guys like J.P. Morgan. Now, what this boils down to is how deep does the conspiracy go between the central banks, of which here in the United States it's the Federal Reserve and the associated banks around the United States, but then you look on a broader base and you look around the world and you understand that the European Union has the same issues that we have. And I just saw a story this morning that UBS, the large investment firm, has been granted immunity by the EU in the LIBOR scandal. Again, billions and trillions of dollars that are put onto the wires in cyberspace. There is a value calculated, and the juggling act continues. Now, I can tell you firsthand that a small business owner can get himself in a lot of hot water by doing arbitrage and trying to juggle inventory. I know it firsthand. And it is a balancing act. And on a small scale, when you're at $500,000 or $1 million, the accusations come. In the trillions of dollars, they get immunity and they start juggling their books. Don't forget, Greece got caught cooking the books with the EU when they entered in 1999, and a couple of years later found that the books had been cooked by 3-1. It is a major concern that I share. And part of what James Bullard shared was that quantitative easing is here. And even if you listen to Bernanke 3 days ago when he addressed the 0% interest rate that is out in the world today, the problem is once tapering begins, and tapering is not coming next week or next month. It might not come until mid to late 2014. Nobody knows. And I don't want to hear everyone tell me, oh my gosh, 2013 was supposed to be a great recovery, but we'll get it in 14. Or maybe we'll get it in 15. Inflation is zero. And the longer we continue to keep quantitative easing in place, the more value there should be to the price of gold. That's why the Department of Justice is looking at GLD for the manipulation. Now, I read an article a little while ago that John Paulson is no longer going to go deeper into GLD. How much deeper does he have to go? 10 million ounces is what his investment would be based on his GLD position. At $12.50 an ounce, Michael, 10 million ounces. What kind of a number is that? I'll give you that number in a minute. Michael's trying to get it calculated for me, but
10 million?
10 million ounces. These are huge figures. Number is
12.5 billion.
12.5 billion. That fund, the last I remember that Paulson was operating, was somewhere in the neighborhood of 208 to 215 billion. That means about 5% of the entire fund is invested in GLD. Now, Soros, George Soros, is involved in mining shares. There's no purport as to how much physical gold either of them control. I'm going with none. But that's part of the reason why Paulson is looking at the loophole of moving to Puerto Rico so that he avoids more tax. And so the fact that, quote, corporate tax structure may come under scrutiny is even more concerning because companies make more money, funds make more money, and then they look for more loopholes to avoid paying the tax that we need to fund our government, to pay the infrastructure bills, to pay the interest, to operate. John Boehmer got purported this morning that he went to the Obamacare website and he enrolled. I'm not sure why he would do it. It took him several tries, according to what Mr. Boehmer released. But Congress is covered for all their benefits, all of their insurance. They have multiple plans available. California announced that over 80,000 people have gone to the California website and passed on Obamacare, and the state of California is not going to extend Mr. Obama's attempt to salvage those people that have been canceled because the Affordable Care Act, which, quote, is Obamacare, doesn't work. Okay, so How does all this relate to what you should be doing and why you should be doing it? You should be doing things today that are tangible. And the fact that James Bullard, and Mr. Lockhart, and Miss Yellen, and Mr. Bernanke, and everybody else that's assorted in this nightmare is going to continue to balance and juggle for as long as they possibly can, because they can. And gold and silver don't have a value to the central banks. They don't need it. They've all agreed and conjured up this game that they're going to dribble and juggle and do the things that are necessary to keep inflation in check. It's at zero. Well, zero is a funny number, folks, because Mr. Lockhart said, we're in uncharted water. We don't know what to expect. We don't know when the trigger should be pulled to begin tapering, to begin doing things that we've never done. We're in uncharted waters. So if you're in uncharted waters and you're not really sure what you should be doing at the highest level of the balance sheet, which is so upside down, then what do? I have a good friend that addressed the Federal Reserve here in Houston, Texas a number of years ago. Very smart lady. I respect her a great deal. She doesn't live in the immediate area these days, but she's still a good friend, and I communicate with her. And she's got a major corporate position, and I respect her intuition and her thought processes a great deal. Folks, nobody knows how to solve this. Nobody. And so you hedge your bets. And whether it's in fine art, whether it's in jewelry, cars, I'm a precious metals and rare coin guy, and I've been involved in the market for over 25 years. I've got over 30 years of experience playing in finance, if you will, looking at markets, trying to analyze everything. The most important thing on websites today is that in-flight phone calls are coming to exist. And, you know, when you get right down to it, who really cares? I was looking at one of the major websites, and just the clip that I can see is that a simple idea made a man who's 53 years old over $100 million, and he was obsessed with frogs as a kid. And today, the thought and the website estimated to be worth $3.8 billion. You know, you can go buy a pretty nice home for a couple $100 million, maybe $30 million, depending on what part of the country you want to be in. And you don't even begin to dent $3.8 billion. And so I look at rare coins and precious metals because that's what central banks look at. And so many of you want to own gold. I understand. I love silver. I love it because it is the one place that simple barter transactions survive. Now, I'm not telling you that the system is going to crumble like everyone thought it would in 1999 when the calendar year went to January 1st of 2000. That event was an opportunity for coin dealers and other people to make a lot of money. We didn't do bad, but 6 months before, we found ourselves at a place where gold hit its recent low. It was a major low. And when gold hit $250, I had clients that were buying $450 $20 gold pieces that were about uncirculated, that today are worth 5 times more than they were then. Gold is only worth about 5 times more, but the coins themselves are 1,000 times rarer. That's the value. That's where I want you to be. The reason I want you to be there is that it makes sense. Now, I look at a lot of things, and certainly today is a day of mourning around this country as the nation marks the 50th anniversary of JFK's assassination. And of course, while it's a somber time for those that recall the event, it's an important look back into history and realize that the amount of conjecture over conspiracy theory continues. I've got my own theory about Why did the government decide to allow gold, silver, and platinum to be stored in special depositories so that in the event, this is my theory, and I'm pretty sure I'm on the mark because the only thing I trust about government is that I don't really trust them. I think sometimes they make attempts, but the division between the aisle is huge. Folks, I think that Ronald Reagan and the rest of the executive level, judicial level, I think that gold and silver and platinum were allowed to be stored in IRAs because if all you did was continue to put money in stocks or real estate, the government couldn't get their hands on it. Oh, they could force treaties and do the things that they normally do. But when you talk about remonetizing a currency, whether it's a regional, national, or international, you've got to have something of value to support it. Now, that's not true anymore. The Japanese have gone to an unlimited debt ceiling. They're over 1 quadrillion yen in debt. On a per capita basis, they're in as much debt as the United States. So the term quadrillion, while a massive number, we thought a trillion was a lot. Heck, I still remember back in the 1970s, the first time my dad did a trade, and it was $1 million. That was a lot. And then 10 million, and then 100 million. I still remember in 1988 was the first time I heard an individual use the term $1 billion, and my jaw hit the deck. This lady lived up in the New York area. She had 20 different checking accounts, and I know that because the company got special account 6. That's how they were labeled, so she could keep up with the amount of wealth that she had. In 1990, first part of 1991, I was dealing with a gentleman who was a Nicaraguan, a Honduran national, I'm sorry. And Felix was a really nice guy. He addressed a problem with me once. And the problem that he had was that his family had so many CDs around the world, he didn't know how to manage them. And it was a pretty simple answer. We use a tickler file, use a big accordion file, and you either put them in by day or by month, and that way you could see when every CD was coming due and you could stay on top of it. First transaction that he did with the company that I represented was $350,000, and he owned a nice big stack of $20 gold pieces. But the elite love rarity. They love high quality. And so that's part of the message that I want to bring to you today. Please don't get caught up exclusively buying modern issue coins that are graded in 69 or 70. They should be part of your portfolio. They meet the criteria of being numismatic, and numismatic is just coin collecting. However, whether you're buying a coin that's about 1/3 of an ounce of silver that sells for $1.5 million, whether you've got a collection of 1,800 coins that commands over 20 million. The auction last week commanded a 50% premium over the professionals' estimates. I had a man in my office the other day, I think I referenced it a couple of days ago on air. $15 coin we documented. Dealers wouldn't have paid $5 or $10 for it. Sold at auction for $1,400. What's the coin really worth? Some might say $5 or $10. There was a collector out there who paid $1,400. So value isn't just perception, it's reality. The reason I talk to you, the reason that I do what I do, is I am committed to the market. I am committed to the message of diversification. And whether you like gold and you want it in the form of little bitty gold dollars that are the size of a man's pinky nail, whether or not you're looking at 2.5, 5, 10, or $20 Liberty gold pieces or Indian gold pieces, or whether you go back in time to the 1790s, 1795 is when the first U.S. gold coins were struck. I sold a 1795 and a 1795 10 to a customer. He is the president of an insurance company. Now, these coins had been lightly cleaned. They sold for a fraction of what they'd be worth if they were net graded real grades, mint state grade coins instead of genuine lightly cleaned coins. But the number that he paid was still a fraction of what the value would be or could be. And so value isn't just a perception, it is reality. You need to move somewhere between 5 and 40% of your net worth. And you need to do it in such a fashion that it happens quickly, conveniently, and easily. And you want to do it because ultimately the dollar is weak. Right at the moment, it is getting pounded over on the trading floor. The Dow trading over 16,000. We had a close over 16,000. The most important thing about 16,000 is if you go back 6 months, we went through 15,000. And if you go back 6 months, you'll remember me saying, folks, we're approaching 15,000 and we'll hit 16 pretty quick. It won't be all that long and we'll be at 20,000. And companies that get bought out, Time Warner is in the middle of banks looking at Time Warner for an acquisition that gets into the billions of dollars. Oil, which went all the way back to over $95 a barrel, West Texas Intermediate, is closing that gap that I talked about, over 20% just the end of last week. And here we are closing the gap up quickly. I want to calculate and say that we're at about 12%. Now, I could be off a percent or two, but my point is that markets go up and markets go down rather quickly. What is always secure and never worth nothing is gold and silver. And when you're on top of the cost of production, the amount of risk that John Paulson and George Soros didn't say it, Paulson did, is that they're not going to expose themselves to any more risk than what they've taken on. John Paulson said last year he had 44% of his fund assets attributed to gold. Well, unfortunately, Mr. Paulson was involved in paper. And paper trading is different than the physical trade. Had he followed his own advice and gone physical, he'd have made 10% in the fund instead of losing 30%. That's a 40% swing in net worth. And you can't tell me if you woke up tomorrow 40% less value to your entire life, it wouldn't change. Now, Warren Buffett says he could lose 98% of his wealth and it wouldn't change his lifestyle. Well, Mr. Buffett has a net worth somewhere in the $87 billion range the last time I heard. And so, no, probably not. He's got more wealth. He pays less taxes than a secretary for the Lord, for the good Lord's sake. Those of us who spend a lot of time and a lot of effort to provide the things that we provide, whether it's for employees, family, doesn't really matter. The advice that I'm trying to bring to you is simple. Consult, consult, consult. Talk to your spouse, talk to your financial people, talk to a couple of friends. Listen to me and go out and shop it if you want. It's simply clear, concise, and logical. I don't want everything in the cheapest commodity because that's where the most risk is involved. If you want risk, go call a commodities broker, open an account, and go for it. The rest of us go physical, and we go physical for one simple reason. The one simple reason is that tangible assets tend to be safer. I'll give you advice. I'll tell you when to buy, when to sell, when you want to trade. There's reasons to do all of those things. And if you're just getting started, you need to go to the meltdown.com. I've got over 500 shows, 360 hours of audio so that you can take notes. All the commercials have been deleted, so you don't have to hear all of that. I try not to make this strictly about a commercial message, but I will tell you, you can email me anytime, Brett, B-R-E-T-T, at thegoldexchange.net. That's B-R-E-T-T at thegoldexchange.net. When you get there, you'll find the archived shows, but you'll also look around and find the links. On the links pages, that'll take you to Eagle Numismatics and the Gold Exchange. And those are companies that we control, and the information is normally pretty current. And if you got questions and you go surf the internet and you want to come back and say, hey, Brett, what do you think? I'll help you. I worry about people who get caught up in online auctions. I've had clients lose as much as, I don't know, I had one guy overpay by 400%. He spent over 30 grand to have $8,000 worth of stuff. And that was never a good trade. And I tried to tell him that. As I look at the markets today, I will tell you that the gold to platinum ratio is still at the 10% premium for platinum. Silver's still hovering at 62.5 times what an ounce of gold will bring. So adding, quote, silver to your portfolio is pretty simple stuff. Folks, these are the times where you ask questions and you start to align a portfolio and you get more right and do the right things. And in a market where we've talked about the huge gap between the Dow Jones and the Nikkei is now closed up to about 600 points again. About 620 points. That's pretty close because the disparity has been as much as 20-25%. That's when you want to start to buy because you understand that the central banks are going to manipulate the market along with the banksters and everybody else, and they all sit around on cyber lines and they can video call each other, and this is just that time where you want to get things right, and it's important to own tangible. Anyway, if you've got questions, please give me a shout. 281-548-2646. That's 281-548-2646, or outside of the Houston market, 877-705-2646. Either way, hit option 0 so you don't get caught in the phone system. You can email me, brett@thegoldexchange.net, but I can tell you after about 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, maybe 8, I'm going to be out of pocket for 2 days. I get to go spend time with my son, and folks, I have waited months for the event. I hope you'll continue to pray for us, our nation, our leaders, that the decisions they make be really seriously grounded and well-based. This is the time to own something substantial, to make the moves, protect your paper. I'm not telling you to get out of real estate, and what I'm really trying to condone is that you own multiple assets. Diversify the portfolio. It's been my message for years now. I've been talking the same talk for 17 years, so it doesn't change. Wire us the funds. We'll wire the funds off. We'll make things happen. It happens within normally 72 hours, unless you write me a personal check on a temporary account, and those transactions can take well over a week or so. Anyway, more disclosure. All you got to do is call and ask or email me. Folks, if you go to themeltdown.com and you register with Ustream, you can chat live. I'll put your questions out there. I'll protect your identity. But this is the time where you want to start pulling in your belt and you want to get a little wiser with your money because the banksters aren't. Anyway, I never get off air without thanking Texas Children's Hospital, both the Downs Clinic and the Ronald McDonald House. Now, at the Downs Clinic, if you're at themeltdown.com and you click on the banner, it'll take you to the Downs Clinic. You can provide a tithe and offering with your information. It's all anonymous from me. Dr. Ostermeyer has moved the Meyer Center off of the Fannin campus, just a little bit south, to help all children with all kinds of disabilities. The Ronald McDonald House put my family up for a period of over 3 weeks. And there's 20 rooms on the 4th floor. They provide overnight accommodations. They give families an opportunity to rest a little bit. For those of us that have had children at Texas Children's. If you can provide a hot meal, please call 832-824-8600. That's 832-824-8600. Nancy Allen and her staff will help arrange whatever needs to happen for hot meals. If you want to tithe or make an offering directly, please speak with her staff. Folks, I appreciate the doctors, the nurses, the staff, and the volunteers at Texas Children's. throughout the medical center, throughout this world. I love kids, and particularly the ones with special needs. Have a great day. God bless you. We'll be back this afternoon. Have a great day, and I hope to hear from you. Talk to you then. Bye-bye.
You good?